How do you prepare for the future when all your experience is based on the past? The truth is, understanding is perishable. So here's 3 symptoms to look for in your organization to see if you're stagnating, and that we'll talk about more in this video. Number 1, is there no or very limited feedback from your team? Number 2, is what you always seem to be doing the permanent plan with very little change? And number 3, do you overvalue quantity over substance or change or innovation? Quantity of what? Usually discussion. Because the bottom line is your understanding is only a partial representation of what's really going on in the world. And to stick to the old way of doing things or to think that you have a permanent solution for anything is going to get you overrun by your competition. Let's get into it. We do think about knowledge and understanding as a compilation of facts from over the years. And even when we study and read, the idea is, and I can say this for myself, is to pack more in to the mind, right? But science suggests that understanding is more of a shorter cycle algorithm of survival than an accumulation of facts or knowledge over the years. One reason is because the things that you perceive, that you see, you're seeing only a version or a representation of what reality is. You filter everything that you see. What you understand is heavily influenced by your past experience, your bias, your beliefs. Understanding is not a static goal to be achieved. It's ongoing. And what we'll see in the video is our mental models of the world really have to die off so that they can be replaced by new ones based on the things that we see, learn, and experience. And the fact that knowledge or understanding is perishable is actually good news because it means that we're preconditioned or we're really built to adapt to our environment. So when we stick to the past, we're really working against that. You may have seen some of Donald Hoffman's work out there. What he introduced is a theory of perception. And what that says is that complexity is really hidden from us. And what we really see in the world, you can think of as an icon. Take a look at this picture. One of the examples that he uses is a blue folder on your computer desktop, maybe a yellow folder you're more used to. But the yellow folder, it represents something to you in terms of storage of files, but behind it are all of the hundreds of thousands of computations and relationships and programming that you really don't need to understand to be able to use a folder on your desktop. In fact, try to imagine staring at your computer screen at each folder and trying to comprehend the programming behind each one. There's no use for that, if it were even possible. But in the same way, physical objects, maybe a dog, for example, is the same way. You don't need to, you look at a dog, you say that's a certain type of breed or a mutt, or it's a certain color, or it's friendly or not friendly. That's really all you need to know about a dog. There's a complex, of course, biology beneath that. So those are 2 examples that help us kind of realize that we need to question everything we perceive, that we see. And if everything that you saw, your goal was to understand it in its entire complexity, don't think of it as impossible, but it's impractical. You don't need to know everything about everything. We only need to know enough to survive. And to go much further beyond that just requires too much energy, too much intelligence, too much concentration. Is not practical. Now introduce Robert Prentner, who brings in this idea that the things that we observe are only significant because of their relationship to each other. In other words, nothing really has any significance in and of itself on its own. One of the examples out there is space-time. Space-time isn't something that is just sitting there waiting to be discovered. It's a point of view and reference for us to understand physics and the universe and gravity and light. And 200 years ago, we didn't know anything about space-time. And 200 years from now, there'll be something beyond that. It doesn't mean that we're wrong now. Different understandings based on available knowledge. So what Robert Prentner would tell you is you're not navigating based on certainty or answering questions along your path. You're making sense of the relationships of the things that are happening around you. Things have meaning to us based on the way we interact with them and the benefits that we see, or maybe the threats that they pose. Take a situation that Marines are familiar with in a combat environment. You are not studying the ground for the sake of knowing what the ground is all about. A Marine in combat is going to look down the street and they're going to factor in countless types of data points that make up their situational awareness of what they're walking into. It could be the time of day. It could be the presence or lack of women and children on the street. It could be temperature, but they're not analyzing the weather. And that situation right there, a Marine in combat, that's a perfect survival algorithm metaphor for you, because it literally is a survival situation. So the Marine is going to discard almost everything that is being taken in visually or all their senses of the area, and they're going to filter it without even really thinking about it to the basic truths that are going to keep them alive. And what keeps you alive on one day may not keep you alive on the next. So what are the correct decisions that this Marine in this scenario makes? How do you judge the right decisions? The right decision is the one that keeps them alive. It's not a matter of understanding the facts, the details of the situation. It's whether or not they live to fight another day. For you, it may be, do you have an edge up on your competition, or are you falling behind? We take in so much information that we don't even realize and discard it almost immediately. And our appreciation or our mental model of a situation that we're in can be irrelevant almost instantly. So this is where leaders come in, is they ensure people are not clinging to outdated mental models. Let's qualify that. There are reasons to do things in a repeated fashion. You do want to do certain things in a standardized manner. You do want repeatability to reduce complexity. So where's the dividing line? You can't interact with the external environment that way. Your competition is actively working against you. They're changing the game constantly on you. And they're not telling you what they're doing, right? And you have to find a way to determine what's relevant. And really the way to do that is to be open to new ways of doing things. You have to use trial and error. And you got to be cautious of your sense of security based on doing things the way you always have. Again, understanding is an evolving, constant process. It's a matter of staying alive. It's not a matter of accumulating. And Hoffman and his research team proved this through mathematical simulations. Using game theory, evolutionary game theory, they proved that two organisms, or two, call them entities or teams, competing against each other. One optimized for truth and one optimized for fitness. The team or the entity that's optimized for truth was geared on accumulating and understanding facts about a situation. And the team that was optimized for fitness was optimized to stay alive, to adjust on short cycles to the situation in hand. And what he proved through these experiments is that the chances of entity optimized for truth, their probability of survival when competing against the fitness team was zero. In other words, it's not possible to survive just by accumulating knowledge. You have to be what he calls a truth-seeking organism. So in leading people, you have to reinforce the goal is never to prioritize compilation of facts over adjustment to the situation at hand. We always want people to be more agile. Unless your role specifically is data analysis, maybe. If you're interacting with the outside environment, customers, competition, or an enemy, you have to be adaptable. And I put the third bullet on this slide in bold for a reason. I like this, that the brain is actually optimized to dump information that it doesn't need. And that's a good way to think about it. It might be a good way to think about if you have trouble retaining things that you read, maybe it's a matter of your brain saying, you just don't need that. You think it's important, it's not important. Your subconscious knows better. I don't know, I just thought of that. Our brains operate with a Bayesian approach, which is to say that it's continuous recalculation of the situation in front of us. Contrast this with a frequentist approach, which you see here, which is the accumulation of data, which I've been beating up that idea this whole video. And the three key components of the Bayesian approach are, number one is prior knowledge. What have I experienced, or what do I know about things before I experience them again? Two, evidence, whether through experiment, trial and error, or being in a situation real time. And the third aspect is when you update the probability of things occurring in the future. So when you think of statistics, you're probably thinking more of the frequentist approach, which is compilation of occurrences. Whereas a Bayesian approach deals more with how much confidence or how much can you believe in the information that you're seeing. It's not just raw data. An example of the two terms would be trying to navigate traffic on the way to work. And a Bayesian approach would be that you start driving, you observe the traffic in real time, and you make adjustments on the way to find the fastest route to get into work. A frequentist approach would say, well, I see that I'm in traffic right now, but I need to drive the same way every day for 100 days so that I can figure out the probability of there being bad traffic in the future. There's no sense in doing that. Nobody would do that. So your natural tendency will be to do some trial and error and find your way to work in the most efficient way possible. Now take that idea back into the workplace. Why not empower people to try new things, to get valuable data, to see what works better? So the relevance for you and I, we operate amidst chaos every day. We pursue certainty, but we never really seem to get there. If we do, it's only localized. Much better to develop a leadership style that helps people embrace the unknown and deal with uncertainty. And part of that is realizing our limitations in understanding, appreciating what we're observing. You have to have people watching for the changes that are occurring in your organization, things that other organizations are trying to do to you, or opportunities that make themselves available that you can exploit. But you're not going to get there if everybody is head down focused on the papers or the work on their desk, especially if those people are supposed to be interacting with outside entities, with your customers, watching for what's coming around the corner from the competition. If nothing else, think of it in terms of a survival algorithm or a survival instinct, things that we need to do to stay alive or ahead of our competition. Those aren't set in the past. Those are occurring right now and right in front of us. Our action plan, 3 principles and 3 actions. Number 1, our perception is geared for survival, not attaining absolute truth. Unless you're an academic, we are geared for survival. We have a survival instinct. Number 2, our mental models, our schema, our paradigms can change. They can become obsolete even same day. Change and adaptation are not optional. And number 3, survival is adaptation. It's not accumulation of facts. In 3 actions, 3 things you can do today. Number 1, audit your SOPs. Is what you're doing antiquated? Is it so based on the past that it's not relevant anymore? Get input from people on the front line. Make sure you're current. Number 2, something that's really easy to say, it's actually kind of hard to do, but implement some sort of feedback. It doesn't need to be a big, fancy after action, spending a lot of money, spending a lot of time with a lot of different people. Just some sort of feedback, and it could be in stride even. Make yourself a learning organization, circular. Make sure you don't experience things and they just fall off on the edge of a cliff. Number 3, I talk about all the time in my videos, empower decentralization. Give your people intent, guidance, tell them why things are important, and leave the how they get things done to them, because they're going to make those minor adjustments, those micro adjustments based on the situation right in front of them that you'll never be able to guide. And that's it. Hopefully I gave you some tools that you can take back to your team and get people thinking and interacting a little bit differently. If it did, consider subscribing and following along. And until next time, your understanding, your observation, what you think you know of the situation, think of it more as a temporary survival instinct rather than an accumulation of facts. Thanks.